Jared, big news yesterday from the Celtics. Did you? I mean, I heard from a dozen different analysts and people talking about this, and it had kind of gone on the back burner because it had been so long since the initial announcement. But did you see this ownership change coming down the way it did?
Yeah, it was looking like they were making really good progress around All-Star break, and that's when Brad Stevens was starting to meet with the Final Four, and there had been enough reporting showing that this was tracking towards a pre-playoff sale. It appeared,
But I guess
and
for who it was announced, that one I didn't hear anyone make a prediction of.
yeah, the only reporting that I saw that seemed to have any sort of real prediction to it was just that Pags was looking like a front runner, and who knows exactly where that noise was coming from. I wasn't one of the people reporting that, but it sounds like Pags was certainly very confident that he was going to get it. And, Bill Chisholm's group, which also includes one of the current Celtics owners, Robert Hale, they got private equity money. They got Sixth Street, who's involved with everybody from the San Antonio Spurs to Real Madrid. They got that extra funding there, and it looks like that might have been what put them over the edge. But I do think, though, that a key condition to the sale was going to be not just Wyc getting to stick around for the next 4 years before he sunsets out, but also that they were able to get somebody who was, they could put in the press release, lifelong Celtics fan, that they can parade around that day they make the sale, lifelong Celtics fan, because the fans, they need somebody they can trust. And this organization has been incredibly consistent over the last 20 years. And they have probably the strongest trust from a fan base of any franchise that I can think of in North American sports. And so they needed to make sure that when they made the sale, that they could keep that going, because I do think Wyc certainly cares about the legacy that he's leaving behind here.
So we were discussing earlier, Jared, that notion of, okay, Bill Chisholm is a lifelong Celtics fan. He's from here. How much weight do you give that? I give it virtually none. Like, it's great that he seems compelled to spend beyond this is a wise investment. You've got an asset that's not going to depreciate. The value is only going to go up. But what do you want to see next that would tell you, okay, it's great that he's coming home, he owns the team? What will be telling about Bill Chisholm's next steps, about who he will be as an owner in the next few years?
Is the value only going to go up? The value is extremely inflated at this point. I'm sure it will. I'm sure inflation will keep going up, but he's not buying in a bear market, or he's buying at the peak of a bear market, it looks like. Bull market. This is why I don't buy NBA teams. I don't know the finances that well. So, it'll probably continue to appreciate. And obviously the big question is arena. At some point, they are probably going to make a move for a new arena. That seems to be something that a lot of people agree upon that are around these things. And so who knows when that's going to happen. I know they have a lease agreement with TD Garden until 2036. I am sure that agreement has outs that they can activate if they want to. And then they have to figure out, how do you build an arena in the city of Boston that's actually accessible? Because North Station is incredibly accessible, and it's in the heart of the city effectively. So that's a big question. So where does he move it? Does he move it to Charlestown? Does he move it to Everett, to Dorchester/Seaport? Or do they move it to Framingham or something like that? I think that'll be the first key sign, or not the first key sign, but a big key sign. The big test here is when they eventually break down the salary structure of this team and they start to offload some of these guys, how big of a step back are they willing to take? Because Brad Stevens last year said after the season ended, there's going to be some waves over the next 5-10 years. It's not going to be all-out competition for 10 years straight here, and they're trying to keep this sustainable for the next 10 years, which is what they have been doing for the past 10 years. And so that means at some point very soon, they're going to have to start getting off a salary to clear out of that second apron that they're in, what's super high above the luxury tax line, so that they can get their draft picks back and things of that nature. They're going to have to do some sort of cleansing. And then the question is, do they trade away Jalen Brown, or probably not Jason Tatum, to do a huge overhaul? Or is it just getting off of Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis and kind of retooling from there? And that's where Chisholm is going to, and his ownership group is going to show, and presumably Wyc being in charge, we'll see what kind of situation that turns into, whether it's a Mark Cuban situation or what. But that's where they're going to show if they're serious Celtics fans who are willing to bite the bullet, or if they're private equity guys that are trying to make sure that they trim all the fat on the salary.
Let's talk more about the timing of that. Obviously, Bill Chisholm said all the right things. He's meeting with Brad Stevens. He met with Joe Mazzulla. He wants to be sustainable for now and for the future. Any new owner is going to come in and say these things, but the finances. It's a $500 million nut he has to crack at the end of this season or at the beginning of next season. He's got $500 million in payroll and luxury tax penalties staring him in the face. Do they dump Jalen Brown, or do they start selling off after this year regardless of how they do, or do they wait and see how they do this year and then make a decision?
Not sure it really matters. I think what really dictates here is I don't see why you would get rid of Jalen Brown. Jalen Brown's a great player. He's in his prime. He is worth the money you're paying him. I think that's what people are forgetting is if you're an all-NBA star and a winner, you're worth a supermax. And Jalen Brown is so clearly worth it. And I feel bad for Jalen Brown because he's done everything he needs to do to establish himself as untouchable. But Jason Tatum is probably a little bit more untouchable just because of his role within the team and his playmaking ability and his rim protection and things of that nature. And so, Jalen is the guy that gets thrown into this conversation. And you don't trade supermax players entering their prime. It makes no sense. You don't do it for financial reasons. You get rid of everything around them, and then you keep that core together and you build back up around that core. And I think it would be more of a question of, do they think this partnership can continue to work in perpetuity rather than do we have to get rid of Jalen Brown for financial reasons? And that's especially the case when you consider Jrue Holiday. They signed him to that 4-year extension right before the postseason, before they were announcing the sale, which I think makes a lot more sense in hindsight why they did it at that timing. And then he's been hurt and he's looking older right now. And if he doesn't stay healthy, then that contract becomes a bit of an albatross situation that you want to get off of. So I think Jrue is kind of, when I saw him sign that deal, I was like, all right, I feel like they maybe are going to move him early in that deal if they have to start making financial changes. And then Kristaps Porzingis, another guy who has not been consistently healthy. He's late, I would say probably late in his prime, considering the way his body has been over the years. He's another guy that they might have to move off of for financial purposes. And so I think that's where you start to see them kind of roll it back a little bit rather than making some sort of giant jump to get completely out of the tax. Like, they're going to be paying the tax. I think Bill Chisholm can afford to pay the tax. This is just about really managing the second apron so that they can free themselves up long-term kind of thing.
All right, Jared Weiss from The Athletic joining us. Some of these issues aren't that big an issue. And I heard somebody talking about, like, what are you going to do with guys like Al Horford, who are, contributors? Well, Al's pretty much toward the end anyway. Decisions like that were going to be made for you just by time. But the decisions as they are made and they are implemented, this is fascinating to me, Jared. If Wyc is going to stay on as the governor and as the guy here for a couple of years, which is what they wanted, what they asked for, give us half the money up front now or 51%, and we stay in control, whatever, for a couple of years. A lot of these seemingly are going to fall on him. I wonder why Wyc or anyone else in his position would wish for that. Yes, to stay involved with the team and not completely let go of this team that you have had a part ownership of, as is the case with Wyc, and been the face of for so long.
You want to stay on the team. There's nowhere else in life you can do this.
But now it seems to be with the tax and everything else that is going to have to be done in order to make this team viable financially going forward. Seemingly he would be the one put in the position of playing the bad guy. Like, why would you want to do that if you're being forced to do it by the new owner? Why, if you're Wyc, wouldn't you just say, you know what? This is going to be really uncomfortable and people aren't going to like it, even if it has to be done. Why would I want to stick around and be that guy? Why not just take the money and say, okay, it's your team now. If someone has to be the bad guy, how about you be the bad guy? I don't need to stick around here, especially since my shelf life is limited as it is.
Because he didn't want to sell the team, and he wants to hang around as long as he can. He doesn't want to do any of this. He's been pretty clear his family's making him do it, and so he wants to take as much time as he can to enjoy it before it's gone. And, like, don't forget, like, the owner gets the seat. He gets to sit next to the bench. He gets to be the face of everything. He gets to be, for some reason, they hand him the trophy when they win the championship. That trophy should go to the coach or the captain first. It's ridiculous. But he wants to make that speech again. He wants to raise the banner. He wants to keep trying to win a championship. They might win the championship this year. They might win it next year. He wants to keep getting more rings. He doesn't have a ton of rings like Red Auerbach does. He wants to have a whole pile of them. He wants to fill his hand up and do the whole Thanos thing. So, yeah, he wants to get 4 more rings so he can have 5 rings and then a pinky ring on the other one, and then he can walk off into the sunset happy.
Jared, I want to talk about hoops here for a second because there's a lot of, I think, bad basketball to come over March. And we're not talking college.
Careful.
Hardy.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Jared's watching college basketball.
Yes, he has proper respect for the best sports weekend of the year. Some do not, but we will move on. What's something you want to learn or see from this team, if there is anything to learn about a team that's effectively locked into the 2 seed and can map out its matchups in the first, second, and then conference finals? What do you want to see? What do you need to learn?
The big thing we're looking here is Jrue Holiday. Is he going to get healthy? Is he going to get into playoff form? Because that's the one thing that hasn't really been working so far this year. Pritchard's been great, a little up and down, but he's been great. He might win 6th man of the year. Horford is playoff Horfording again lately, and he's just been another level. And they're going to have to start studying his genetic code to figure out how he's hacking humanity at this point, along with LeBron. KP looks fine. KP is starting to come back from this health thing. He looks fine. Brown is doing his post All-Star thing again. He's been great. Tatum's been great. So there's not really question marks. Hauser's fine. They're fine. Jrue Holiday is their only real question mark in their playoff rotation. So this is all about seeing, can we start to get the best out of Jrue Holiday if you're the Celtics, and can you feel confident that he's your guy going into the postseason? Because Holiday was crucial last year. He won them some games in the finals. He was the guy that they called upon. He really fulfilled the role that they brought him in for last year in the playoff run. They're not going to win a championship without him being his best. They won't even come close. It's not happening without Jrue Holiday playing at his level. And that's what it's going to take this year. The league is just better than it was last year. It's a lot better than it was last year. You got 2 juggernauts that are performing at the same level that the Celtics were performing at last year in Cleveland, OKC.
Do they beat Cleveland without Jrue Holiday being 100%?
I don't think so.
There it is. So these are big stakes. All on the aging shoulders and fingers and knees and everything else of Jrue Holiday. Need some of that Horford DNA hacking. What'd you call it?
He's biohacking humanity.
There we go.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Here's the key thing. The team that wins the title most of the time either has a god tier player playing at a god tier level, or they were the healthiest. And last year, the Celtics were the healthiest, and that was the main reason they won the title.
Even without Porzingis last year?
They were still relatively the healthiest, just because of how they played without Porzingis the whole year. And so that was, you look at everybody else. Everybody else lost their top 2 guy, basically.
Indiana was without Halliburton. Cleveland was without Donovan Mitchell. Miami was a shell of themselves to get them there. Bucks were hurt, and then you get
Jalen Brunson broke his hand. And then Kyrie Irving was a shell of himself for Dallas, and then Luka was playing hurt the whole time, to the point that I guess they decided he wasn't good and they traded him for some stupid reason. The Celtics got a cakewalk last year as a path, but they were also still an all-time great team. Both things can be true. This year, they're not playing quite like an all-time great team, but I think we all know they can flip that switch and be back to the level they were last year. So we're going to see some epic playoff basketball, but we also don't know who's going to get hurt. Somebody gets hurt every playoff run. Multiple guys get hurt every playoff run. Could happen to the Celtics, could happen to Cleveland, could happen to OKC. Who knows? But there's going to be variables. There's going to be chips falling all over the place, and the Celtics have to position themselves with health to be the ones that can take advantage of however things shake out.
All right, Jared, appreciate the time as always. Raise an umbrella drink in Cedric Maxwell's honor at some point over the weekend, would you please? We'll all be doing
Toast
that.
to you, Max.
All right, very good.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. For more Celtics analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.